Hi all, welcome to another video, and it's 8:56 p.m. here in Sydney and it's a fine evening. In this video I'll talk a little bit about the agentic workflows that are built for my day job and just how it has improved the way we do things and how it has helped us speed up in terms of delivery. Okay, so before we get into that, so it's fine evening here in Sydney, and I've actually had a pretty good day today. Um, for once in a long time, it was actually relaxing. I mean, I got up in the morning and I had, you know, I took my time to have my breakfast and I played some games, which is great. I mean, so I finally got around to playing Doom: The Dark Ages Revelations DLC. I bought it when it was first released, but I just didn't get around to playing it. So today, I finally have a chance to play that. So yay, I'm happy, and it's fun. Uh, do I enjoy it as much as I used to back in the day? I mean, I still do. It's Doom is Doom. I mean, Doom is an awesome game. So for any kid, grew up with id Software's, the FPS games. Of course, for all of you, John Comic is a legend, and his legacy continues on in Doom, and it's fantastic. All right, so I can actually, as you can tell, I can keep talking about Doom for this entire video, but let's not do that. If I do want to do that, I'll probably make a different video for that. Okay, so now the topic of this video, the agentic workflow. Now, for those of you who've been working in my field, like working in tech, working in engineering, you would know that AI is taking the world by storm per se. I mean, every time I open LinkedIn, I see some or the other posts about AI. And now this is obviously, there's like two different groups: those who are for AI and those who are against AI. I mean, there are those that are talking about system design interviews for agentic AI, and there are those who are saying that, oh, we don't need AI, we still need human developers. And there are those who say that AI is so good at how they were able to build a full lab in like so and so time. So there's all that, and of course, for my day job, I mean, the place where I work, it's no different. There's heaps of people talk about how good AI is and what are some of the things that it can do, and of course, a lot of the conversation is around some of the capabilities that it introduces and some of the benefits that it has, and there's a lot of evangelizing happening. Evangelizing AI and why we need it and so on and so forth, and which is great. I mean, I was part of that. I was part of that crowd most of last year, where I was actually educating engineers in my organization about how to use GitHub Copilot. I've actually talked about this in my previous videos, where I mentioned that I was delivering like a 2.5 hour training session, and I delivered that to about 100 plus engineers, and yeah, so that was great. It was just introducing, but as GitHub Copilot was introduced into our organization, it was just me showing them how to use it and how it can benefit your workflow, how it can actually help you speed up in delivering and all that. So while that was great, but as of this year, my focus has changed somewhat, and it just that change focus got a massive boost. It was the time I joined this new project that I'm on right now. So the new project, I think I might have mentioned that in one of my other videos, but I'll mention that again regardless. So for my new project, I'm working on this GIS platform that's part of the organization, and it is something that with which we track weather events, and we know where there's going to be a disaster and so on and so forth. It is pretty cool. It's quite interesting, and some of the problems that we solve are pretty serious engineering problems. Really, really serious engineering problems. I'll make a different video just talking about some of the problems that I've solved, because that itself is really cool, and it's interesting if you're an engineer, and it's about all things engineering, solving all these interesting problems, and it's it's on that. Um, but okay, so now given the nature of this project, it's super busy. Um, the best way to put that is we're always under the pump and we've always got to deliver features. Now that needs to happen, um, regardless of technical debt or whatever else it may be. But we've got to keep pushing forward and we've got to keep delivering features. And of course, we can sneak in technical debt, tech debt tickets, which is really the strategy anyway. I mean, if you've got a sprint that you're working on and you take like two feature tickets and you take one technical debt ticket and sort of, that's how you resolve technical debt, which is why the stakeholders, the business stakeholders that want you to build features, see that, okay, you're building features, but at the same time, as an engineer, the effects of technical debt. So you obviously prioritize that and you resolve it as you go along. So in my project, one such technical debt was the unit test coverage, and actually built a multi-agent workflow. Now the agentic workflow is basically what happens is you've got a test writer, then you've got a test judge, and then you've got a test reviewer. Now all of these are orchestrated by what we call a skill. So I've defined a skill for like test coverage, and that skill basically orchestrates all three agents. So what it does is the skill has access to a script, and that script is basically a shell script, a bash script that are written to basically just check the test coverage and all. And it uses that, it checks it, and then it passes the control to the test writer. The test writer wakes up and the test writer writes all these unit tests, and it addresses some of the files that lack coverage. Now once those tests are written, it then sends it to a test judge. Now this is a production Gen AI pattern, and that I've seen, it's one of the state of the art. So I've actually seen other people use it, and the only reason why I know about this was that I actually did some reading online. I listened to some podcasts and all, and I found that, okay, fine, this is one of the methods that people are using to evaluate LM output. Because in my organization, as of now, we don't really have anything that uses it in such a way. And while we do have the chatbot, the way that's done is a bit different. So anyway, so yeah, the test writer writes the test, and then it will send it to the judge. The judge would basically look at the test and he would score it on 7 criteria. The criteria is like the edge cases covered, tautologies, then the naming, and so on and so forth. And it gives it a score out of 14. So it's between 1 and 14. So if it's between 12 and 14, it's passed. I think between 10 and 12, there's a bit of rework required, between 8 and 12, a bit of rework required, so we'll send it back to the writer. And if it's under 8, then it's a complete rewrite, we'll send it back to the writer. Now, depending on, obviously the writer will address feedback that the judge gives it, and then we'll give it back to the judge will rescore it, and then it will actually give it to the reviewer. Now, the reviewer is quite interesting. Now, the reason why I added the reviewer, because when I first built this workflow, I realized that with LLMs generating code and writing unit tests, it would generate a lot of bloat. It would have too many comments, it would have some repetitions, and there was quite a bit of that, and the files would just keep getting larger and larger. So one of the instances that I noticed was that it had generated about 10 files, each 10 test files, and each of these test files had like one unit test. That's it. And they were all very similar. So I'm like, okay, you know what? You can just combine. So there are some of the rules that I added for this review agent who would clean up. And mind you, this code base is over 115,000 lines of code. It's a very large code base just for the front end part of it. That was let me have my tea and I'll keep talking. So it will go through this entire test process, and after that it will actually say, okay, fine, the work is done. Now the other thing is, the way you invoke this skill, you'd have to give it like the folder that you want to target, the coverage level that you want to target, and then yeah, of course, if the entire process of the writer, the judge, and that back and forth. Now, I've set it so that at maximum there'll only be two retries. That's it. If it doesn't get to a point in two retries, that's it. We end the agentic workflow, because the last thing I want is an infinite loop with the agents. Because if the agents keep looping endlessly, that's just something that you don't want, and that's outcome that you absolutely do not want. So I've actually these were just some of the guardrails that I had to put in place to ensure that agents don't keep looping forever and they actually produce the output. If it doesn't get to a certain level, that's okay. We end the workflow and then we try it again. So with this, just me as a single engineer, I've managed to increase the test coverage to over 80% from a much lower test coverage percentage. This is a really good outcome, because at this time I was also constantly delivering features, because this is something that we've got to keep doing. And that's why this agentic workflow that I've built has been extremely helpful, and it's been really good, and I'm more than happy to talk about this to anyone who wants to hear. As part of my day job in my company, in addition to building systems that I'm building right now, I also shared this with over 200 engineers or 200 staff within the organization. I've given a number of presentations on this agentic workflow, because from what I can say, this is the first of its kind in the company, because this is actually a proper production grade agentic AI workflow. So that's one thing. Now there's one other agentic workflow that I've built, and I might not be able to cover all of that in this video, but I'll do that in the next video. It is the research workflow, similar to the test coverage workflow in terms of how it's orchestrated. So it's all orchestrated by a research skill, and it's got a number of different things. Now for this workflow, the goal is to actually a researcher will do the research, and then it will go through a bunch of stages, and it will produce some reports, including reports that enable non-technical stakeholders to make business decisions based on cost for certain software. Now this research is around upgrading one of the existing libraries or that you're using in the app, or something like that, or something like that. So it's around that. And if for upgrading to a later version or to an alternative version, the agent will do all of that and produce a report, including the migration plan and the effort that's required to do the upgrade or switch over. This is also quite helpful, but you know what? I'll actually talk a little bit more about that in my next video. And some of the other things that I'm experimenting with is also I'm trying to experiment with certain RAG systems. Now that we've got access to GitHub Copilot SDK, I'm really interested in seeing how I can build out the RAG, or even if it's just a small sample of it. I just want to see, focus on certain aspects of, the embeddings and retrievals, and then see how, I'm not sure if it's entirely possible for me to provision a vector database in my company. So yeah, but I'll keep going along with this, and I'll obviously share my update in terms of how and what I've done. So that's all I've got to say, and it's 9:10 p.m. and I think this video is okay. I mean, I'll have a listen of it and I'll upload it. But as usual, thank you all for watching, and until next time, live long and prosper.